And the reason why I keep addressing the fact that we need a systemic audit is because most of what people find troublesome about poverty and crime are actually just products of the economic regime. They are a product of the system, and they are what we call symptoms. So when we think about houselessness, when we think about mental health, we think about all of these things, there is a pathological development within every individual that is living within an environment that necessarily leads to their impoverishment. So when we think about somebody's individual impoverishment, a lot of what the government and the current standards preach to are individual failures. But we have a large-scale systemic failure. The systems that we have are failing a mass of people. And the reason I think there's some headway in some of these conversations is because more and more people are being affected, they're being thrown into these outliers, they're becoming the symptoms that are occurring. And one of the reasons why we need to be transitioning away from violence, and particularly cops, as you were saying, they don't solve crime. They are a reactionist force that goes out and reacts to things that are reported, whether or not they're real or true. Once a police officer has been sent to a field, their specific job is to find the crime. So when we think about some random person getting shot by the cops during a call, we can tell that they are being reactionary. It is not a responsible response to community affairs. So when we think about diverting resources, defunding the police, we need to be thinking about systems that are responsive in responsible manners. So when we think about sending somebody out, we would never have to consider sending the cop if we had a responsible system already in place to deal with houselessness or any number of poverties. And to do that, we need to strip it away from money. We need to stop commodifying these ideas, and we need to be thinking more in terms of human rights. So if you have a system that naturally preys on the weak, particularly the economic system that we have, you're going to have people unable to participate in those systems. And we'll bring it up, AI is stealing people's jobs. The number of labor jobs that are going to be available are going to continue to diminish. So if we do not set forth a basic level of dignity for humans, human rights, we are only going to see an increase in the impoverishment of our cities and neighborhoods. So when we think about, again, the usage of cops versus not cops, I don't want to send a reactionary, violent force with the maximum capacity of death to an instance that needs a responsible system that doesn't create the symptoms. Cops naturally create more poverty. If you send a police officer into an impoverished area, people in the underground just live, by the way. Your average person isn't going to be a square, we'll say. And a lot of the laws in crime are specifically made to criminalize poor people. For instance, self-medication. Self-medication occurs when people do not have access to health care. If you had access to health care, you will not have, that's to be questioned, obviously.
There'll be less of them. There'll be fewer. We're never going to stop everybody from self-medicating or whatever, or not wanting to participate. I know people that have mental health issues that don't want to take the medication. They don't want to participate in the help. And that is their right as a human being to say no. And so there's always going to be those outliers and a small portion of people. But I think the majority of people will take the help or whatever it is. They would rather be better. As a person that struggles with mental health problems, that has done some self-medicating in the past, I think that I didn't really want to self-medicate. I wanted help. I wanted to feel better. I didn't want to be like that. And yeah, I think if there had been resources and help for me, I wouldn't have self-medicated.
And so much of our society is based off of sink or swim. So there is an unfortunate thing that happens in our education system that hyper-focuses on successful students while ignoring, that's a very specific context to context, but if you are not excellent in our system, you are often at least left within the gray area of dealing with yourself.
Yeah, that's where I was in high school. I was really intelligent, but I had behavior issues. And so I was immediately written off as a stoner or a thug or whatever they wanted to label me because I had my head shaved underneath and wore a biker jacket or whatever. This is the 90s, grunge, think that. So they immediately, I had an administrator walk me down the hall and tell me that I needed to just quit high school and go work at McDonald's because I was never going to amount to anything. And then, so Miss Zimbelman that worked at South High in the 90s.
Girl,
I'm getting
South.
Yeah. Not only
Graduated
not only did I graduate high school early, I have degrees and I'm doing good work now.
Yeah.
You were wrong.
Ms. Zimmerman, you were wrong.
Zimbelman. I think it was Zimbelman. We called her Zimblebitch. So it's hard.
And you find that type of thing all the time. And I do think that is, again, a symptom of being overburdened by the fact that you don't have the resources, you have too many students, but then it does lead into
Indoctrination.
It does
by
end
the
up
system.
leading into them
Because
having a hyper-focus.
Right now, I'm interviewing really wonderful people that are good people that really truly do want to help. They really truly do want to fix problems that they see. They are not bad people. And in the Kansas House, and then Ann that's running for against Marshall. But at the same time, and so they say, I go out and I speak to my constituents and they say, this is what I want. And this is how I feel, which is great. But if you are, if those people you're talking to are sick with indoctrination and then they're telling you based on that indoctrination, so you're really not going to change things on a grander scale if you just keep feeding into the indoctrination and being, I think the people that are going out there too have the indoctrination, they don't understand that they are trying to do this without using my attack words, trying to get better, not using attack words. They are just a problem with the system and they don't even see it. They see themselves as a solution, but they don't hang and have a full grasp of the problem because they're like, well, let's go after ICE, but the police, no, those are my friends. There's a lot of good cops. My dad was a cop, or my husband was a cop, and he was a good cop, and blah, 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 blah. And that's what they do when I try to talk about systematic problems within in the police. People, especially when you're talking about the problem I'm fighting right now and dealing with DeAndre Hill's killing in Wichita by the Wichita Police Department. I'm mentioning that in every single one of these interviews. Like, have you heard about the man they killed in Wichita? And every single person's been like, what? And yeah, when you're talking about, where was I going with that? I lost track. That's what I do. Systematic failures, indoctrination. Oh,